30 Minutes with Tosh. This is my new daily practice of just releasing and speaking through as I channel a new evolution of self. And it's a little bit of a brain dump, a little bit of a open therapy for myself, and a little bit of a free jazz way of getting to know myself again. If you guys don't know me, I've been an artist for over 10 years now. My journey started out very accidentally. I am a Wesleyan graduate, and in school I studied Black performance art, hip hop, psychology, and a lot of things, but my focus was on Black studies. And I deeply fell in love with the stories and sociology of our people because I wanted to transcend the existences of my people in our communities alike. I am Panamanian, Puerto Rican, Haitian, and Jamaican. I am from Brooklyn, New York, Flatbush, Brooklyn specifically. I grew up right on the block, and my journey is with a mama who used to go to the clubs a lot, especially the Jamaican clubs. And she was a dance hall queen in the 80s. And she had me at 18 years old and had a really hard, traumatic beginnings of her journey. Was in foster care with her sister, and they've been through a lot. And my biological father, he was caught up in a lot of wild things. And my father, who is my stepdad, that I call him my dad, he also was in a lot of wild things. So I grew up around a lot of wild things. Never really had a means of expressing it until I got into music and writing. I started my journey as a poet, to be real. I used to write really naughty poetry when I was young to get through my hormones. And then as I got older, I started to write poetry to deep dive on my relationship with hip hop. But what I think I was actually deep diving on was my relationship with masculine energy and fatherhood. And I remember Azealia Banks talking about how women in hip hop often are in hip hop because they got daddy issues. And although I do have some agreements in that with her, I also think I have some mama wounds too. So all of it is a part of that journey. And yeah, I got into hip hop through playwriting. In college, I would write plays, and my plays were like in poetry. They like poetry. And that turned into me thinking I was going to go into theater and do like hip hop theater. I deeply studied drama and theater in school, as y'all could tell by the work y'all see me in. I'm constantly in some sort of evolution of myself. And so I love drama, I love theater, I love performance all together. And so I used to write these plays, and Memoirs of Hip Hop was my personification of hip hop, how I would personify hip hop as a being. And I ended up playing hip hop. And then there were all these other genres there, like mama jazz, pop papa, funk, blues, all these different genres and how they influence hip hop. And I don't want to tell my whole story because I might use that play in the future, but that is what I was into. And that was my degree I got. That was my thesis in college. And from there, I left school, worked for Chase Bank, hated it, and worked at Urban Outfitters, also hated it, worked at Costco, also hated it. A lot of jobs, y'all. Had to help my mama pay some bills and help myself pay some bills. And simultaneously, I was going to the parties in New York and the ciphers in New York and poetry slams in New York, and I would just do my thing. And on that journey, I met some rappers and they asked me to be in a cipher. And shout out to Tony Polo, wherever you are. I haven't heard from this kid in years, but I'm sure he's out there. He asked me to be in a cipher. And I ended up doing this cipher. And before I knew it, my identity shifted. And I moved into becoming a rapper. And people were asking me to do verses on their projects. Shout out to Science, who was like the first person I ever did a verse for. And then from there, I was writing my own like records and then a mixtape. And my first mixtape ever was called The Presentation. And it was all old school Kanye West beats because I was a huge, huge fan of Kanye's old production. And so I would like dig in the crates for old Kanye beats. And there were so many sites back then where you could find these Kanye West beats or beats from like Pete Rock and, Ninth Wonder and all these people that I just was super into. And so I would dig and I found like this whole compilation of old Kanye West beats that he hardly, he used, but he didn't like push out there. And so I made this mixtape called The Presentation, and it's somewhere out there. I'm not gonna find it for y'all. Y'all go ahead and find that. And then we did a music video at St. John's College, and it was in like I was a theater kid. I wanted to create short film. I didn't want to just do like just the rap normal thing. And I never really have. And in the beginnings of my journey, a lot of it was like people just trying to tell me what to be and how to be. And I would go to these label meetings and they would just look at me like, what are you doing? Like, you're not a rapper. And I can't lie, I really fell into a space of like not knowing if I was lying to myself, but knowing that I had this deep passion for music and rap. And I always knew that what I wanted to do with hip hop was transcend it beyond just one genre. I think hip hop at its core is not really a genre. I think hip hop at its core is an essence, it's an energy. And for me, when I got I want to say I was channeled to rap. When I received the message and the download to start rapping, I just knew that it wasn't going to be like, me trying to do the whole thing with the girls and fight. And I remember times where people were trying to like beef with me. And I just knew that wasn't my thing because one, I'm super emotional and I'm going to put it in the music. And I have in the past with people that I had my issues. Whew, what a time, And I know my Latin Caribbean energy is not one to play with. My ancestors don't play about me. So I just knew beef was not really my thing. And, you know, getting in those label meetings, I always just was like, this is not it. I wished one ended up being it at some points of my journey because my journey has always, was always very challenging. Me changing the words up, okay, was challenging. However, my journey has been beautiful and I'm so grateful for it. And so I went through like all these challenges of not knowing what I wanted to be, fell into a deep depression, really felt like I lost myself because the world was not really interacting with me in a positive way as a woman rapper. And that time was really hard. I went through a lot and I had got into an abusive relationship and it was just challenging. It was a challenging time. I don't want to get all watery, but it took time for me or so. And the first 5 years of my journey, I didn't know what I was doing. So I don't even call that a part of my journey. I just kind of call it like things happened. And in that time, I like opened for like Big Sean. And then I shared the stage with Kanye, Kendrick at his young ages. And so much was happening. I opened for Ghostface Killah, Princess Nokia, all these people I would be in the vicinity of. And I was like, oh, this is bound to happen for me. Like, look at all these things that's happening. And when it wasn't showing up or I wasn't getting the support that I thought I deserve and I know I deserve, I just kept pivoting and finding new ways for me to navigate my artistry and not the industry, but my artistry, like who at an essence is Latasha, the artist. And so I gravitated back into performance art and started to do residency programs and things of that nature. I had a really crazy moment happen in my life where I was manifesting a lot and reading all the books like The Secret and Ask and It's Given, because I remember someone said Big Sean was reading that book and I was like, I'm gonna read it too. And, one of the things that it said was like, to script and write the things that you want to bring into this life. And I would do that all the time. And I remember at one point I was writing that I wanted to like move in a house with women artists and be an artist full time and have an investor invest in me and someone come and support me. And then it happened. And I talk about this a lot. I talked about it in my tick. And then that happened because I had so much conviction and belief that it would happen. And I used to write it in the present tense and say it was already done. And then it happened. I moved in with 3 incredible musicians, and one of them ended up working at National Sawdust. Shout out to Katie. And Katie got me a residency there, and I started to dive into making these pieces that were album, theater, and multimedia. I've always been really interested in multimedia work till this day, and I created this album called The Black Album, and it symbolized LA and BK because I used to go by the name LA. And it was about my story growing up in Brooklyn and what I was witnessing with gentrification and erasure. And you could find it on SoundCloud if you ever want to hear it. I didn't put it on Spotify or anything, but maybe I will in the future. But I wrote this whole album, and this album means a lot to me because it was a really truth-telling album, but it was also really scary to release it and to share it because it tackled and talked about things I was healing from, like losing a boyfriend at a young age and dealing with watching the city that I grew up in completely shift. And it just had a lot of things. And then I didn't know if it was received well. And I thought like, oh, nobody really cares about this album. Nobody really messes with it. And at that same time, Kendrick Lamar had just came out with Good Kid, Mad City, which was in a similar vein, but not the same. And Solange had just dropped Cranes in the Sky and that whole project and I was just like, nobody cares about what I'm doing. And we created these really masterful shows, like 3 shows or 2 shows at National Sawdust, and told this story of me and Brooklyn and everything I was feeling. It didn't go as far as I thought it was gonna go. And I was just like, what is it? What's up with me? Or why isn't it getting received? And so I worked on another project called Teen Night at Empire at the same time. And that went really well. But it was like I did that album because I was not sure of Black. Then Earchasm passed away. And yeah, it was a real shocker to all of us when Earchasm passed. And I had felt so much guilt around not releasing that album like further or pushing it further. But I know he forgave me, and I'm very grateful for him because he let me just use whatever beats. He didn't care about anything, and I didn't even know how to pay people at the time. I didn't know how to split. I didn't know anything, honestly. And he passed, and it was a real like hard time. And so I took some time, kept doing performances in New York City and did shows all over the city. I performed at every venue in New York. I know it. Then I met some really dope people in Canada. Well, I've known these people before. They actually knew me for my first project, The Presentation. Shout out to Sansan and Lani. They, had this really amazing crew called 88 Days of Fortune, and I would do all the shows with them, and they brought me to the crew, and it was just super dope to have like this Canadian family. So I had this Canadian squad and met some really dope people in Canada too. And yeah, I was doing just a lot. And then I started a residency program at the Shed in New York City. And the Shed was this massive new venue that was opening up. And I was so excited because I had this residency to teach kids how to perform. And what we did was this project called Power Play, where I interjected my music and they brought in their music. And then artists like Arisha Love and August, they all brought their poetry, and it was just like this masterful work. And we performed for 800 people, I remember, for 2 nights. And I was like, this is crazy. And at that same time, though, I was feeling drained by New York. I had worked my ass off for like 5 years and really went through all the like pains of the artist's way and just couch surfing and, failed toured, all of it. And then I was like, yo, I want to move to LA. And I remember we were talking about it. And then at the same time, Nick Littlemore from Empire of the Sun hit me up and was like, yo, I want to write some music with you. And I was like, who, what? Like, I had taken my ex-boyfriend to see Nick Littlemore and Empire of the Sun, and I was freaking out that this man had hit me up. And so he hit me up, and I was like, yo, this is crazy. So I'm in the studio with him, and he's like, yo, you really have a gift. You need to trust your gift. You're really stronger than you know. And I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about, man, but I'm with it. And so I wrote a bunch of music with him. And he was like making a label at the time and stuff like that. And then he was like, yo, come to LA and work on some music with me. So my like second time or third time going to LA was with Nick. And I met his boy Peter from Panah, and we worked on a bunch of music together. And I remember his brother was just like, none of this music is a hit, so I don't know, whatever. But I thought all the music was incredible. Honestly, that music never really came out because one, I didn't sign with the label because the deal wasn't for me. And yeah, it just didn't make sense. I think some of the songs are getting to an artist or something like that. I don't know what happened to the music, but it is a lane of sound that I'm really interested in tapping into. And I'm not going to talk about it here because I probably am going to make an album like it very soon. I have some goals for 2026 to make this kind of album. And so, yeah, worked with Nick, came to LA. I was dating Ja at the time, and Ja is my fiance, my partner. He used to shoot all my music videos when I first started and did all the like visuals for a lot of my shows, and just my ride or die. And I love that man to pieces. And then T, our brother, his best friend, but now my best friend, also used to shoot with us. And Brandon was like around the crew, and it was just like a dope crew that we was all in. And I was in a few crews. I was in another crew called Dope League in New York with Science and Noah and all of them. A lot of drama went down, and to this day, I regret some of the drama that went down, but I deeply love all these people and appreciate all these people for being on this journey with me. And I hope they forgave me for my wild times, because I've definitely forgiven, for whatever we went through a long time ago. But yeah, I've been in a lot of crews. So fast forward, telling Ja I want to move to LA. We all visit. I have a breakdown in LA because I want to live here so badly and needed to get out of New York. And I was like, all right, we're moving. And me and my best friend, now Angel, who is also Ja's best friend, we came to LA together. We scattered our house and we moved here. And the journey of LA was real. Being a New York girl, I'm a hustler. All I ever knew how to do was hustle and bustle and make it work. And LA's energy is just not like that. LA is a place in which you have to rest. You have to allow things to happen here. And my boy Dave from Dave and Sam, Dave Giles, he said that when they built LA, it was built so it could feel like you're in a dream. And that is absolutely what this place feels like. I really love LA for the nature. I'm so happy we moved here because I became a nature girl through LA. And overall, this place has shaped me so differently. I think when I look back at my pictures from when I was coming from New York to LA, I look younger now, I think, than when I looked back then, because New York, you hustling and you're going and you're drinking and you're partying and every minute you're doing something. And I love my city. No one could tell me nothing about New York, okay? I will fight till the damn for New York. However, sometimes you gotta leave a spot to get healthier, and I gotten so much healthier living in LA. However, the first few years was tough. I had no job. I had nothing here. So started to work with a sync company to write music for sync. and wrote this incredible song that a lot of you love called Who I Am. And that song ended up going super big because it was on Madam C.J. Walker's Self Made. Perfect song for Self Made, by the way. And so happy it was there. I remember when my grandma, God rest her soul, she heard this song on TV and it was crazy, like such an amazing moment. I can't act like that music didn't come with a lot of drama. Like, I don't want to say music always comes with drama because that's not true, but there was a lot of drama that came with it. I'm not going to spill too much tea here. Maybe in another video I'll spill tea. But I am grateful for that song for doing so well and grateful for that time of doing some sync work because it helped me pay my bills. And along with that, I was doing commercial work. So I had some commercials with Maybelline, Ulta Beauty, and I've done a lot. I've done a lot of crazy things just independently. I've gone on and off management. So yeah, did that song, Who I Am, and COVID hit. I thought I was going to go on tour with Who I Am. I was like, this song is so epic. And all the songs I was making at that time, I was like, I'm about to build a tour and just tour myself through LA. And then COVID hit. And I was like, what am I about to do? All of us were trying to figure it out. I mean, Angel had lost hers, T had lost his, I lost mine, Jamel had lost his job. We all lost our job at the same time. We was living together. And we had to figure some shit out. We had unemployment, obviously, and I still was getting some checks from sync and commercials. God, let me tell you something. Spirit is with me, and we're going to talk about Spirit, I guess, in the future as well. But Spirit continued to stay with me and bring more every time. But yeah, Spirit was with us in that. And for 4 artists from New York with no like real backing, we made it happen. And the first year of us making it happen, we were like, word, what are we gonna do? And I remember telling my babe, like, I gotta figure some stuff out. And I did a GoFundMe. I remember I did my GoFundMe. I started a company called Lightwork, in which I was helping people figure out how to manifest, mostly women, because I want to focus on women and manifestation with women. And I started these like Zoom calls where I was like sharing my insight on manifestation. And those went really well and they helped me pay a few bills. And then I got like a little job helping a woman with her courses and that went pretty well. And then I thought I was like, all right, I'm going to do light work and I'll make it a company. And I started to like work on it, but it just wasn't mending well. And I was like, man, I wish I could just get direct to my consumer with my music and art and figure out something else. And when that happened, that's when Jamel found Web3 and we started that deep dive into that world. And Web3 will be part 2 of this video. Thanks for listening. 30 Minutes with Tash. Peace.